Well, hi. Hey, I want to do a quick demo for you today and show you how to paint out your napkin holder. You might remember when we first started, we put 3 coats of sealer on there, and that's kind of a strange thing to do before you cut, before you route, before you drill anything. Before you do anything in your napkin holder, we put 3 coats of sealer on it. Let me show you why we do that, okay? All right, so I have my evergreen napkin holder here. It's you can see the sealer on there. You can see how that's dull and this is shiny. I got my 3-coat sealer. I ran it through the CNC machine, and now I'm ready to do a little painting. So I have a little bit of forest green paint here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to get a good coat of paint inside these surfaces. And if you want to do this at home, if you have any acrylic paint, this was just a little tube of acrylic paint that I used. They have these at Walmart for 69 cents right now. And so you can go get whatever color you want. If not, you can do it in class, and that's cool too. So I got an El Cheapo brush here, and I'm just going to come in here. And what I'm doing is I'm really kind of just pushing that paint into the corners and coating things up. And notice I don't have to worry about it getting up on the surface because we're going to sand all that off. Now, having said that, I don't want to put any more paint on the surface than necessary, okay? Last year I told kids not to worry about getting on the surface, and the kid painted the whole board. And the problem is when we get done here, we're going to sand this. And the more paint that's on the surface, the harder the sanding is and the longer it takes, and the more heat it produces, and none of those things are good. So the goal here is to get that paint pushed into those grooves. Make sure you coat everything. And sometimes we have to do 2 coats. It all depends on how good a job you do getting this all coated. And what I'm looking for is just any little pieces that are shining through that I didn't get paint onto. And if you just kind of spin the brush in circles, it does a pretty good job of making sure every surface in the engraving gets touched with paint, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I could do my text a different color, but then I'd have to clean out another brush, and I'm feeling kind of lazy today. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this thing out. Well, hi, gang. Hey, I'm back in the shop, and I have my napkin holder that I've painted. And what I typically like to do is I like to let that paint dry for 24 hours before we start sanding it. If we let that dry completely, we get a better finish. If it's a little damp or not 100% dry, you'll get little flakes in there of sawdust that will be embedded in the paint, and we just can't get it out. So let me give you a quick little how this works. So I got the disc belt sander here. I'm going to place the board face down when it's running, and we're going to sand off. And what it's going to do is it's going to remove the paint and the sealer, both of which can get a little sticky if it gets hot. So we're going to be patient. We're going to sand a little. We're going to take a break. We're going to sand a little. We're going to take a break. It's going to look a little something like this. So we get that up and running. I'm going to slide this on from the side. I'm going to sand a little bit, and you can see it starting to take it off. I'm going to flip it over and go the other direction. Okay, and you can see I'm not quite getting it all, but it's kind of a little warm. So you want to sand a little, take a break, sand a little. Now I'm barely pressing down on it. That's part of the deal. And I can actually smell the sealer starting to melt a little bit. So I just want to touch it, make sure it cools down a little bit before I continue to sand. You'll notice in here, sawdust is starting to fill those spaces. I think it'll still be okay. And I'm going to sand this down until I get the tops of the letters showing up, like the C and the O here, a little farther. And again, we want to make sure we get all that sealer out so it looks right. We're getting close. And so what we have is something that looks like this. Okay, it doesn't look great, but let's run over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the air hose, and we have this pressure turned down quite a bit. This is down to about 30 psi, and we're just going to blow that off. Okay, and that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we have. I would probably sand just a little bit more. It's a little deep. I think the G will clean up a little bit and look a little better, but that's what it looks like when we're done sanding. All right, off to do the next one.